How do you find the will to fight back against a world that wants to keep you sedated, average, and stuck in plates? Join us for the tools and strategies you need to create a life of abundance, discipline, and high achievement. This is the Tactical Empire with Jeff Smith.
All right, welcome to another episode of the Tactical Empire. I have a guest I am very, very excited to introduce you guys to today. He is a man of a gregarious personality, and he is here to entertain and also blow you away with how intelligent he is. Mr. Adam Lyons, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you so much for having me, Jeff. I mean, you know, I think you're awesome. I'm super excited for this, and any way I can help, you know.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I'm super excited we were able to get you on the schedule so quickly. So I really appreciate you. I appreciate your assistant working with me and everything. So thank you, man.
Yeah, of course, man. Of course. You know what? It's you prioritize the things that are important, right? Like there are definitely people that have to wait 3 months to talk to me. You're not one of them.
Well, man, I feel honored that I'm on that list. So I definitely appreciate that, man. You and I were fast friends the minute we connected. And so I do appreciate you showing up and kind of coming on to tell your story, man, because you're a fascinating human being. So let's just dive right into it, man. What got you into, or how did you get started in entrepreneurial ventures?
Yeah, so I grew up really poor, and for anyone that thinks they grew up poor, I'm that or worse. My dad was a janitor, my mom was a stripper, and not a good one. We did not have a lot of money growing up. It was so bad. Bacon was rationed in our house. You were allowed one slice of bacon in a sandwich every day. That was it, because they bought exactly enough for each of us to have one slice. And I remember I got the worst grounding because I put 2 slices of bacon in a sandwich one day. You know, it was like I was 11 and I was like, no, forget this. I'm having 2 slices. You know, I was like rebelling, and I got so grounded. And it was so bad that because of that, my parents forced me to get a job at the age of 11. And they knew a guy, Frank. I'm never going to forget Frank. Frank was like 64. And he was a man with a van, which is like an old guy with a big truck. And he would go and move a room in somebody's house or a piece of furniture, you know, and that was his job. And he always needed somebody else to carry the other side of it. And no one wanted to work with him because he paid nothing. You got the tip. So like if it was 50 pounds, because it was in pounds, it was 50 pounds and the assistant got the tip and lunch. And that was what you got. And that was my first job at the age of 11. I used to, you know, be made to work at least 1 day a week, sometimes 2 days a week, because it was based on whether Frank needed work, not whether I wanted to work, because it was take it or not. And I started buying my own candy, my own, you know, sweets, we call it in the UK, my own sweets, my own bacon. If I wanted extra bacon, I had to buy my own bacon. But, you know, I went from being an 11-year-old with no money to being one of the richest kids because I had cash. I mean, I didn't have as much as an adult, but I had cash. And that was kind of like where I got hooked on, if I want something, I'm going to get it myself. Yes. So, you know, every summer holiday, I was either hanging out in my room being a nerd or I was out making cash. That was the start, really. That was like the foundation. And then it never really left me. At 18, I started a company that would do sword fighting in the forest. You could, if you wanted to go and sword fight, we'd take you in a forest. The reason we did it in a forest, by the way, everyone's always like, why did you sword fight in the forest? We kept getting arrested because England's really strict on weapons, and we would fight in like parks and people would call the cops on us and we'd get arrested. And of course they didn't do anything because, you know, it was clear we were sparring. We were like, hey, it's martial arts. But in the end, we just would go and fight in the forest about an hour away from any civilization. And then we would have bachelor parties. People would be like, hey, we want to fight in the forest for our bachelor party. You know, we want to go in the forest, we want to get drunk, sword fight, and then go to a strip club. And I would organize sword fighting in the forest and charge like, you know, a few £100 for people to go and fight. And then at 21, I found myself working in a company that made movie props. And they were struggling to grow. They had a lot of issues. And because I was quite entrepreneurial, I helped them out. And I opened a factory in Africa to mass produce the weapons. And I ended up separating from them, but building my own company for 2 years, so 21 to 23. And I made a lot of money. I was doing like 50 grand a month. It was a crazy amount of money for a 23-year-old just making swords. And I had so much freedom and so much money. I got depressed, really depressed. I was like in Africa, I had no friends. All my friends were like locals, you know? And I hand delivered some swords to a movie company in the UK. And when I walked in, there was a woman there that I'd met many, many years earlier. I did a work internship through school with her. And she offered me a job on the spot, and I quit. I shut down the company, just closed it. I think I sold it for like $2,000 or something stupid like that, like just to get rid of it. Yeah. And I ended up getting a job in television, where I ended up working in media and doing public relations, which all those skills would come in handy later. Mm. And then I went back to being, well, not back to being, but I followed in the footsteps of my dad and became a janitor. And I just didn't know what to do. I sort of like was kind of over life. And then that's when the bug came back. And I started getting into social networking, social engineering. I ended up becoming one of the world's leading dating coaches. They made documentaries about me, 3 of them, in fact. I ended up on the Steve Harvey show, the Today Show. They made a cartoon about me in Taiwan. Crazy.
That's fascinating. You were like in your 20s when you were the leading dating coach in the world, and you weren't dating anyone, right?
Yeah, I was just going, I mean, I was dating, but like, you know, at one point I had 14 girlfriends at once. And, or a better way of wording that is there were 14 women that would say I was their boyfriend, is a better way of wording that. But I have this whole thing of, I didn't lie to any of them. I didn't even hide anything. They all knew about each other. Like I would have like 4 or 5 women over my house naked, like, and it was normal. That was like, oh, it's Saturday. There's a bunch of naked women at Adam's house. But then I monetized that. And that was the thing, because initially I couldn't make money doing it, which sounds insane. Can you imagine? Oh, yeah, I got 5 naked women at my house. How are you doing? Oh, I'm broke. But I couldn't work it out. And then I started learning business. And that's really where the change came, when I hired business experts to teach me business. And what's fascinating is I lost interest in dating and became far more interested in the business stuff that I suppose had captured my attention in that young age. And now, you know, I own 14 different businesses, and yet I care a lot more about business and the strategy of business and mergers and acquisitions. And actually what I'm really obsessed with is customer psychology. That's like my favorite thing. And yeah, and I've worked with some military guys, and I've guided them through using kind of like what I do. I work with some big corporations, but I really like helping people that are doing like $1 to $3 million a year is like my favorite. There's less than $1 million a year companies tend to have these problems that I don't really want to deal with. I can deal with them, but I don't really want to. And over 3, you start reaching that $5 million a year mark, where there's these headaches you get that I don't really like dealing with. But there's 500,000 companies in America between 1 to 3 million. That is more than enough to give me more than enough to cut my teeth on. And I really like taking those companies and pushing them through those barriers. That's fun. So
I love that. I love that. And you're doing a lot of speaking on stage as well, right? Yeah.
So I in the pandemic, I was fortunate enough. One of my business mentors wanted some help with some things. And he had access to thousands of businesses that needed help. And through him, I ended up helping over 1,900 businesses in the last like 3 years. So since 2020, with either mergers or selling or acquiring or scaling or growth or sales scripts, whatever it was, analyzing customer behavior, building off of it. And in doing so, I got to look under the hood of a lot of companies, like so many, that now I kind of can look at any company and I'm like, oh, I know exactly what to do here, or I know exactly what to do there. And that was worth its weight in gold, to be able to look at a company and be like, oh, I know what to do here. I've seen this, or I've done this before, or somebody else did it and I was, able to look in. And that's kind of what I get to do now. And I get invited on stages because when I speak, and, hopefully everyone listening here is going to agree, they're like, oh, this guy knows what he's on about, because I'm not guessing, I'm not regurgitating something I've read from somewhere else. I've seen it or done it or helped someone do it. And it's just recalling memories. And it's funny because I get people going, oh, you're so quick with your answers. I'm like, I'm just remembering what we did. I'm not inventing anything. And that's how you can be very specific and accurate. And that's just leading to speech after speech, getting featured in publications. Especially, we did some really good charity work and that got featured. So yeah, that's what I do.
Yeah, I mean, but that's an incredible volume of experience in a short amount of time when you think about it, though. Like being able to be involved in like 1900 different scenarios of transactions, acquisitions, sales, closures, whatever it is, roll-ups, all of it is just like you drank from a fire hose, but got in 30 years of experience in 3 years.
Yeah. And that it feels like that sometimes. And, the gray in my beard is starting to show because of it. And, I'm in my 40s. I often get accused of being young because I've got like a youthful energy, I think, to me, because I'm still excited about things in life. So, I'm not young, depending on how you look at it. But
yes,
yeah, hey. but yeah, I've got a wealth of experience at things that most people don't get much experience in. And because of the kind of person I am, because I am a strategist and I'm a nerd, I'm really big on seeing patterns and observing patterns. And it's one of the reasons I get on well with military guys, because I know, especially, people that do special ops and special forces, they're all about patterns because that's what keeps them alive. And I've worked with them so closely. They're always, no, I don't know. They tell me this. But it's the same thing. I can't not see patterns. So once you look at all these companies, you're like, oh, it's really obvious the same mistakes that come up time and time again. And the solutions are also ridiculously obvious. That you can help somebody and be like, hey, you should do this. This is, this will move the needle. This will put, how much money do you want in your pocket? Because this will do it.
I think the same thing about coaching. And it's interesting that you're saying we identify patterns, because I think that probably made me a very good business coach very early on, because everybody comes to you and says your scenario is completely different, right? It's the same in acquisitions and mergers, I'm sure.
Yep.
Like, oh, I want to sell my business, but my business is so unique. And
yeah, I'm just
fucking not. And so when I say that you were drinking from a fire hose, you got all this experience, like it as I listen to you, I'm like, it's really not that hard. There's only a certain amount of pieces to the puzzle, right? And once you identify how those pieces have to move based on the gaps that expose themselves in the system, then it becomes very easy to fill them in. It's not like, oh, I've got to go learn this. I've got to relearn this new way of doing things. That's just amazing, though, and fascinating, because most people, like even the entrepreneurs that I know that are into mergers and acquisitions or buying companies and selling companies or startups to sell, like they'll only like 5 to 7 in their career, maybe. Like, and so like the amount of just transactions that you had your finger on is what's fascinating to me. Like as I sit and process it, I'm like, oh, that's fucking really cool. Like,
so
that's
to give you an idea, I closed on a business on Friday. Today, I got another one cross my table and we just sent paperwork to close. So that's 2 within 5 days.
Yeah.
And that's common.
So you guys, are you doing a fund to acquire businesses? Are you doing? Okay.
Smart, sneaky things I'm doing. So let's just imagine that. All right, let's just look at the numbers. Upselling accounts for 70 to 85% of the revenue of any company that effectively upsells. To put this in perspective, if you're doing 200 grand a month, which is kind of the level I like, right? Somebody's doing 2.5 million a year, give or take, 200 grand a month. If you don't have effective upsells, that's 140 grand a month you're missing out on. Mm-hmm. Or if we put that in perspective, we're talking about 1.8 million a year in untapped revenue.
Yep.
Now, at a 2.5 million gross a year business, the person who's running it is probably only pulling out, let's be generous and say 500 grand in seller's discretionary earnings, which is how we'd calculate the value of that company. If we put that at a 3x multiple, which is a very high multiple at less than $3 million, that's a 1.5 million purchase price. I could literally borrow 1.5 million from the person selling the business, increase the revenue by 1.8, pay them back with their own business over the year, and pocket 300 grand difference, not accounting for the fact that I can also pay myself the $500,000 in seller's discretionary earnings. So I'm now being paid 800 grand to buy the business off of the person selling it.
Right, right.
And that's the kind of stuff I do.
It's the same way in real estate. You evaluate the deal and you look for the levers they're not pulling, and then you're like, okay, I'll take it. Yep. And so when you see those things and those opportunities, you're like, yeah, and that's, so you get, your eyes become trained for things like that. So that makes a lot of sense to me, because certain people look at properties and they'll be like, oh, that price is ridiculous, and you're like, well, it's actually zoned for like 3 more lots, so you could build like another 12 units on that same property. So the opportunity is really, you don't know yet. And so, yeah, I understand what you're saying completely. And then if you can do the seller financing angle, which is brilliant in a lot of situations, I also find that a lot of people aren't like, they're not savvy to that methodology of lending. They just think it's crazy. They want to go to the bank and they want to get a SBA loan. And I'm just like, absolutely not. Like in most situations where these people are selling, first of all, I think the boomers, you would probably know this data, but like the boomers own a majority of those businesses that are in that tier that you're talking about. And so they've got what, 10 years left in business, maybe. So
well, yeah. And the thing is with these people, they almost prefer money over time because they want the guarantee of income still coming in. And I'll pay a premium if they'll do seller's financing. And that's the difference. So I'll be like, look, if you want cash, it's $1 million. But remember, I'm going to get 1.8 in a year, in 1 year.
Yep.
So I'll offer them 2 million over 2 years, which is even better for me. But for them, double. So they're like, whoa, you're going to pay me double if I'll fund it myself? I'm like, yeah. And then I have a whole angle. And for everyone listening, by the way, you're about to get $25,000 worth of advice, because literally I charge 25 grand to say what I'm about to say. So you're welcome. Here's what I say. I'm like, look, let's just say I give you $1 million today. I'm going to pull that $1 million out of my investments. Now, my worst investment's returning me 15%, my worst. So let's just say I pull $1 million out of my investments, which I have, and I have now lost 15% or 150 grand and risked $1 million. So at the end of year 1, I'm down 150K and $1 million is at risk on you telling me your business is good. That's pretty risky. On the flip side, I'm willing to take the risk and give you 2 million guaranteed, providing it doesn't come out of my pocket. Now my $1 million sits in the bank as backup in case I need it. I make 150K each year, which is 300K, which helps me purchase the business at 2 million. You get double and guaranteed income every single month. And the best part is, and I always say to someone like, if I miss one payment, just one, I'll give you the option to take it back off me. So there's a chance that I pay for a year, you get $1 million, and then you get your business back at the end of the year. Now, the only counter to that is, well, what if you ruin it? I'm like, well, first of all, you told me it was good. How can I ruin it? If your business is that good, is it easy to ruin? It shouldn't be. You said it was turnkey. It was easy. How can I ruin this? On the other hand, if by some, miracle, I do manage to ruin it, I'm not going to be able to make the payments, am I? Why would I keep paying for something after I've ruined it? So you get it back within 30 days of me, ruining it. And at that point, you built it. You could build it back up again, or just sell it on to somebody else and get double pay. Either way, this is great for you in every single world and minimizes the risk for me. I take on the risk for how much I have to pay you without taking on the risk of my cash.
Yeah.
Time and time again, people go, yep, that makes sense. And the cool thing about businesses versus houses, because obviously I know people in both, and I do a lot of real estate investing as well. When you sell or buy from a homeowner, more often than not, you're dealing with a family. And even if that person's got 5, 8, 10 doors, they're still a family person with 5, 8, 10 doors. When you deal with a business owner, you're dealing with a business owner, someone who negotiates, is a forward thinker, understands about revenue models, cash flow. They get it. So I'm not talking to somebody that doesn't understand and they're like, wait, slow it down. What are you trying to do? They're like, oh yeah, that makes total sense. Okay, sure.
Yep.
That's the factor.
Yeah. In the real estate space, it obviously works better in commercial properties and then like apartments, shit like that, right? Because they're used to getting profit from these things monthly. So if you just flip it into where it's like an annuity for them and they get to walk away and they still get that mailbox money. Yeah. I could see that being very advantageous for everyone involved for sure. So man, that's awesome. I love the speed at which you move.
Thanks.
That's good. Congrats on the businesses.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
This week. So what's the future hold, man? Where are you going to go? Where are you taking this in 3 to 5 years?
Well, the big thing I found is like my real superpower, like I was saying, is actually these customer insight reports where, and we've done this for a number of companies where they'll hire us to do it for them. We go in and help business owners communicate with their customers to find out what else the customers want to buy. So I'll give you an example. Is there a recession coming? Are we in it already? How bad's inflation going to get? The day you sat down and drew up whatever products you were going to create or services for your customers, you probably didn't consider any of these questions. And as of today, we're June 7th, the needs of your customers have probably changed. And you're probably hoping that based on what you've done before, as is any business owner, that the customers haven't changed their needs. And yet, just because of the potential looming recession and supply chain issues and inflation, their needs have changed. So your product, your offer, and what you do is already out of date. And one thing I say to all my clients is sales is a lagging indicator. If you say to me, well, my sales are fine, you're not looking at the wrong thing, because right now the customers that are paying you, they'll pay you while shopping around because they don't want to lose whatever it is they're getting for you while they look elsewhere. And the minute they find the thing they're looking for that's addressing their fears, they're gone. They move on. And now you can't get back. Hey, do you mind if I ask why you're leaving? Oh, the economy, blah, 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 blah. They're not going to tell you that they're switching to your competitor because your competitor is now more targeted. And so we have the same system we use to release that extra, 140 grand a month in a company. We now offer either a company can work with us and we'll guide them through doing it. And we do that over a period of X amount of months or years.
Right.
Or we have a done for you service where we go into the company and we go and pull all the data and we give it to them and say, hey, these are the 3 things that you're not doing. So in our own company, I'll give you a good example. We do, business mastermind events, just kind of like everybody else. Our next event is in September. So, July, August, September, 3 months away. And we named it today. So we named the events. Our next event is grow your business in a recession. So our previous one was grow your business in a crisis. So you will notice a theme. It's grow your business in, and then whatever is going on at the time. So we know our customers, even if they've bought from us before, are like, oh, I got to do that one. And I need to come and do that one, because our customer insight report is always telling us what our customers are worried about. But here's the thing. If somebody just copied what I just said, you might be wrong, because your customers might care about the supply chain. Your customers might care about inflation. Your customers might care about the war. They might care about the fact that 9mm guns are being banned in Canada and that Biden's coming after the guns over here. You don't know until you talk to them. Yeah. I know for a fact, without guessing, that my clients care about the recession more than anything. because we did a customer insight report. And like I said, we charge an amount of money, but I have never had anybody fail to get at least, I mean, literally at least 10x the value once they implement this, because you can literally just repackage what you're already doing and bam, have a brand new offer that speaks to people. You can resell that to people that were old customers that have kind of left because they think you weren't relevant. And now, for all you know, your 10 best customers from 5 years ago are now ready to buy again once you position it right. You don't need to buy ads. You don't need to get leads. We don't need to do any kind of deep testing. And we don't even have to develop it before we sell it. Because once we get the messaging right, we can literally do what we call a hand raiser. So we go through the customer insight report, break down what we call the hand raisers, which are concepts we think people will say, oh, can I buy that? Can I buy that? And they raise their hand. And then we send out a message that says, hey, we're thinking about doing, insert what we think is going to work here. If you'd be interested in that, just text us back. And you just look, we get all these text messages, great. And then I just look at my client. I'm like, okay, cool. Your product is normally this much money. You just received 50 text messages from people saying they're really interested in that. I don't know what your conversion rate's like. Let's assume it's the standard conversion rate of 1 in 3 to a warm audience, which is kind of what people typically will do. So it's like, so based on that, you're looking at about, say, 16, 17 sales at your $20,000 price tag or what have you. Are you satisfied? Yeah. And it was like, yep, thank you very much. We'll do it again. And that's what we do.
Yeah. And there's probably a lot of client recapture that can happen too, because just like you're talking about sales being a lagging indicator, it's also like they probably come to you. They've already lost people for the exact reason you guys are about to analyze. So like you're going to intervene with your solution, which is going to stop the bleeding and keep those people there that need the switch flipped or the language changed on what the offering is, right? But like whoever left in the last 6 months is probably somewhat likely. You can probably get 1 in 3 back as well.
Well, yeah. And if you think about some of those people may have left in the pandemic, say, or just afterwards because of money, who have now reset their financials, miss working with you,
right,
but don't want to come back and get the thing they feel they've already had.
Right.
And now the reposition makes them go, whoa, 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 this is new now.
Yep.
I'm in. Let me sign up for that. And they come back.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I can see that working well. So yeah, that's a no-brainer for ROI for most businesses for sure.
Yeah. And the cool thing is because it is selling to past customers, whether they are ex-customers or existing customers that are just, rebuying, it's just almost pure profit beyond whatever your raw costs are. There's no marketing costs or advertising costs here beyond what they pay us to help them. And we do a very extensive job, and we actually don't just give them a single thing. We give them like 2 or 3 things. So it's possible that you could pay us once and implement 3 different things, which is how we know we at least 10x, because we will tell you, hey, this is number 1, but number 2 and number 3 are also strong. We would recommend this one this month, this one 2 months later, and maybe try the other one afterwards or what have you, or have them in a sequence of if they buy this, do this, and so on and so forth. So we give a full strategic breakdown of how to do it. And it just gives people revenue that they can then use to hire an ad agency or whatever you really want to spend money on. It gives you that freedom to do it.
Grow and scale for sure. Because you don't have any acquisition costs. It's just the fulfillment side of things.
Yeah.
And that's based on the package that you put together. So you choose that cost too.
Yeah. It's funny. I tell people, I'm like, we move the needle. That's what we do. And it's the thing that every company wants, but we don't do it the way they want. Because the way they want is like, I want a bunch of new customers, or I want to dominate the market. I want this. Like, that's not what we do. We get you the money you've been ignoring that's sitting on the table that you've forgotten about. We go into your sofa, we pull out the pillows and grab the hundreds of thousands of dollars you've left in your sofa that you've forgotten about, that you don't even think exists anymore, and you were going to throw the sofa out. We're like, whoa. There's a lot of meat on the bone that you're throwing out, and let's get that for you. and then do what you want with it. And that's what we do. And so when we acquire a company, when we're doing it for ourselves, we're just looking how much meat have they been leaving on the bone, and we just go in and pick it dry.
Well, you're maximizing profitability. So if anyone that's listening to this, if you're thinking about selling your business in the next 2 or 3 years, you should fucking call this guy, because this is exactly what you want to do 2 or 3 years before you start advertising your business, because your P&Ls will be so sexy, and he's going to get every bit of profit out of there. And you may not want to sell your business after he starts doing that. You're gonna be like, shit, I was leaving.
Well, this is the thing that we've found. We've been doing this in our own company. I mean, we started doing it before COVID, but we do this in all of our brands. And every time we do it, it's just a cash cow day. And it weirdly gets you lazy, because we know that if we just sat down, ran a report, sold whatever was listed in the report, we would make a ton of cash.
Yeah.
And so we'll go through phases where we're like, we're not really working, kind of, we're turning up and doing what we need to be doing, but we're not really pushing. And then the minute we want to buy something expensive or do something different, then we're like, all right, well, let's just do this in a couple of the brands and make a whole bunch of cash.
Yeah. Yeah. Man. What's your favorite businesses to own or run?
Yeah, I like people more than the business. So like, I had a guy contact me the other day that has car washes. And if you'd have said to me, do you want a car wash business? I'd be like, no. But this guy was really cool. I was like, you know what? I'm open to it because he's cool. So for me, it's people. Like, I want to work with somebody that I know is gonna implement and execute and do things. And that's the biggest one for me. Like, I had this one guy that I acquired his company. He's actually a competitor. And he came to me for some advice. And I basically said to him, I was like, I can't give you advice. We're competitors. I've got to own you. I was like, now, if you're cool with being business partners, I'll unload everything I'm doing. But I've got to own a piece of your business to give you industry secrets. Yeah. And fair play to the guy, humbled himself and was like, done. And so he gave me 40% of his company, which is kind of my standard deal. I don't really like less than 40%. I don't like more than 40% either, because I don't want to control the other person. I like being the advisor, and you can tell me no, and I'll be like, no problem. Because I'm very easy to stay humble because of my upbringing. So I'm like, yeah, that's fine. You're in charge. But yeah, so he was great because I really liked him, and he was definitely growing significantly. Like he wasn't as big as my company, but he was right on my tail. Like if I made a couple of wrong moves, he would have taken over in this one business anyway, because like I've got 40. So yeah, but he has a big YouTube channel. He's got like 3 times the followers I do already, but just wasn't monetizing them. So again, there's that meat on the bone was really clear. Mm-hmm. And when we first started working together, he could see exactly how much money I was gonna make him. And he tried to pull out of the deal. And when it came down to signing on the dotted line, he's like, no, I'm good. I've seen everything. I don't need you anymore. And I was like, hey, this was my fear, dude, was that you'd come get the industry secrets. I was like, that's cool, but like, we're done. And that was on a Friday. And I remember he kept bugging me on Saturday and Sunday because he wanted to hang out. And I think he just started looking at the amount of work there was, and he still had questions. There were still things he wasn't sure of. And Monday morning, I turned up, and on my desk was a handwritten apology and a bunch of flowers for my fiance. And he was like, I was a fool. I listened to people that got in my ear telling me I don't need you. And the minute I didn't have you, self-doubt came in, all the things that used to hold me back before. And he's like, I understand if you never want to see me again. If you can accept this as an error of judgment, a momentary lapse in sanity, I am now more committed to this than ever. And I phoned up the guy and I was like, that takes balls, dude, to fucking do that. I was like, I'm in, let's do it. And so we signed them. I got shivered. We signed the paperwork, and I love this guy now. Like, I trust him because of that. I trust him. And so I just gave him everything. We're running a mastermind in Colombia in about 5-6 weeks from now. We took $250,000, and it's the first event. Took $250,000 on the first event on a mastermind that no one knew about. And he 4x'd his revenue since we started working together. And it's just a great guy to work with. And what you'll notice is in this entire discussion, I never said what industry it's in because it's irrelevant. Yeah. It's putting a large 6 figures in my pocket on a consistent basis. And I'm working with a guy that I now believe has a lot of integrity, especially because they can recognize. I don't expect someone to be perfect. I expect you to own your mistake. And even if that mistake is a mistake of character, and he's only made the one, it's not like he's not like doing it over and over again. One mistake of character. I get it. He saw big money and people got in his ear and, he's like, well, what do I need? But yeah, he's great to work with. So that's what I look for.
Yeah, that always is tough because you make these decisions when you think you need someone, and then the numbers get so big. He probably just looked at like, hey, what am I going to be sending Adam?
Yeah, that is exactly what he saw.
Huge.
Yeah.
Right. And
yeah, I mean, yeah. And and the numbers do get big, but that's the point, because we deliver. And, it's not cheap to work with me, which is why some people partner. But then when they partner, they realize I'm only partnering because I know I'm good. So I know the money's bigger. They're weighing it up like, oh, that's a lot of money to give this guy. Maybe I'll partner with him so I don't have to pay it. And I know that I'm going to win. And this is going to be a lot of money coming in. And then you see their face when they write, 6-figure checks to me on a consistent basis. And they're like, man, but you didn't really do much. I'm like, well, you weren't capable of writing these checks before.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. A lot of people are short-sighted on things like that. And it's just because they've been burned in the past by other people from time to time. But man, kudos for you for stepping back in there and accepting his apology and shit. Because I'm just trying to sit here and think about how I would digest that. Because I don't know. I wouldn't have done it instantly, I'm sure. But man,
I think I'm a sucker for a handwritten note in this day and age, right? It wasn't a text message. It wasn't an email. And who has paper and pen? He went out, he bought a pen and paper. And that was what it was. And I saw that instantly. That's what I meant about patterns. If he'd have just texted me, I'd have been like, I don't know, man, I need to think about it, right? If he'd have phoned me, I'd have been like, how dare you just phone me? The fact that it was a handwritten envelope with a letter inside and flowers for my fiance, because he apologized to her because she did all the paperwork. He even offered, and we didn't accept it, but he offered to pay for all of the administration costs that we lost in the, yes, I'm doing it. No, I'm not doing it. Yes, I'm doing it. And in the end, we said it's because we have retainers, so it doesn't really matter. It's negligible. Right. But he was willing to pay like to the tune of like a good medium 5 figures to apologize and cover what he thought would have been the cost, but it just wasn't. So it was fine. Right. But yeah, man. But I think that's the thing. I think it was just so clearly a real gesture of, and it wasn't even please, can we? It was, I understand if you don't want to, but I want you to know I'm committed to fixing this. And I was like, that's good. That's a real apology.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's humility for sure. Because once you've done something like that, you got to be like, fuck, man, like I can own it, I suppose. But like, I do understand if the answer is no, because like there are, like I said, I don't know how I would react in that exact same situation. Because that, like, when you said it, I was like, oh, motherfucker. Like when you said he backed out. Because I've been in situations like that before, and on handshake deals, and people are just like, yeah, there's no more handshake. And so, well, that's a great little story. So thank you for sharing that, because there's a lot of business lessons in there. For sure. And I think, but that's, that's the key, right? And I like that story because, I don't have to say the industry, because it isn't about the industry. It is about the person. And if you're with the right person and you work together well, you'll never have a bad day. It's always great. And I've been in bad deals. I've absolutely been in bad deals. And I've been in businesses where things don't go the way you want them to. But like there's one deal I'm working on right now. I say working on. I bought the business last year. I bought 100% of it, and I bought it with 2 friends. And my 2 friends put cash in. I didn't put any cash in. I was doing the work in the business, and it isn't doing what we want it to do. Like, it's okay, it's making money, but it just isn't doing as much as we all hoped. And it's not the end of the day yet. We're 6 months in. There's plenty of time for it to turn around.
but it had more problems than we thought. And we can't communicate with the customers, which is the issue. If we can communicate with the customers, we'd be great. But there is a complication with communicating with them. So everything's just slow. And the two people that put cash in, I already reached out to them and said, listen, I'm a man of my word. This isn't working. You got three options. One, I'll give you your money back and I'll buy you out. And they're like, you never buy people out. I'm like, I don't, but I will, because I also always win. I was like, and I'm open to the fact that this is maybe not going to be a win. I don't want to say that yet, but it might not be a win. And I brought you in with a lot of this is going to work, or I'll make it work. And making it work might be, I'll just give you your money back. I was like, it is a lot of money and I don't want to give you your money back, but I want you to know it's on the cards. If you say it, I'll do it. Alternatively, if you want to sit in it and you want to, ride it out, which I'm open to, I will match your fee in coaching, training, products, events, everything I do until it's equated. And I was like, so it's really your choice. Or you can just write it out as is. I wouldn't recommend that one because I want to make sure this is right. And both of them said, no, we'll take the deal on the coaching and the training, because they've got businesses as well. And so it's great because we're helping them. They're doing wonderful. I mean, one of them, he's had like $250,000 days since doing it. So he's super happy. And he said to me, he's like, I don't care what happens now. And I was like, yeah, I didn't think you would. But it's an anomaly. And the cool thing is he still kept the equity. So if it does kick off and we can communicate with the people like we're supposed to, everything will be even better for him. But I think that's the point. You want to make sure that at the end of the day, you can still smile at the people you're working with and everyone's happy. Yep. The business is irrelevant.
Yeah. For sure, man. For sure. That's a great lesson as well. Because sometimes it's good to run so fast that you make it irrelevant. Right? The deal that you guys did, like, let's fatten you guys up in a different way and make that other deal so it doesn't really matter. So it's insignificant.
Yeah. Can I make you so much money?
Yeah.
Helping you do what you do, that this is not a problem.
Right.
And that's really the only way to go about it. And now they don't care, but they've kept the equity anyway. And I want it to work, just because I don't like losing. So and also, like, it's a puzzle for me. This is, like, there are tactical and strategic problems to find. This is a technical problem, which is a bit of a headache because that's not my skill set. I don't go up to people and be like, oh yeah, technically I'm amazing. Technically I'm not. Strategically I'm great. And when you cannot communicate with the customers, that's a problem. But there's 100,000 customers there. We just got to work out how to get them to actually see anything we're doing. Yeah.
Well, man, you'll have to come back on and let us know how that goes.
Yeah, I'd love to, dude. I'd absolutely love to fill you in.
You're a big family guy too, right?
Yeah, I got 5 kids, and I just recently my brother passed away about 8 years ago, and he's an older brother, and I adopted my nephews as well. So I've got them staying with me. Actually, one of them just went home because to see family. So I've got just one of them with me right now. But yeah, so 6 children in the house.
Amazing. Yeah, that was one of the original reasons that we clicked so quick, because you had a ton of kids as well, and then your epic Nerf wars. My wife was showing videos of your Nerf wars somewhere over the weekend.
Yeah, it's just making sure that you have time for your kids. And I think a lot of parents make the mistake of trying to force their kids to do the things the parents want to do. And the kid's like, oh, I don't want to do this dinner, or I don't want to watch that movie. When you watch what your kids are into and then you do that thing without them, suddenly they come running to you. Like my 4-year-old, he's about to be 5 actually. He's obsessed with dinosaurs. And rather than, trying to take him to a natural history museum or what have you, I just found this really cool new TV show that just came out about dinosaurs. And I just put it on the TV, on my TV. And I was like, hey man, would you mind just turning your game down a little bit? I'm just trying to watch this show about dinosaurs that I just found. And he goes, what? I was like, oh, it's a show about dinosaurs. I just want to watch it. And he's like, can I watch it with you, Dad?
Yeah.
And I was like, do do you want to come and watch this brand new awesome show about dinosaurs? That's really, really cool. And he's like, yeah, I do. And he's turning off the video game console and jumps. And that's my parenting hack.
Yeah, I love that. That's excellent advice. But yeah, that does work.
Yeah,
all the time. You guys, we haul our kids around and do everything in the outdoors, and we're big RV people and experiential. Like, we pulled our kids out of school a couple of years ago and homeschool them now. So
great.
We're big on the integration of our entire ecosystem, like our life, our businesses, all of it. Just because there's not really, the lines are very blurry. We do not have 9 to 5s where there's time to work and then other time to family. It's all kind of intertwined every single day. And so for us, we have to run a pretty rigid schedule from timelines so that Kirsten can block time and I can block time. And we know when the other person is busy and when we have availability. Shared calendars are a big deal for us, because we time block everything from 5 a.m. when I'm up to the end of the night.
Literally, it's exactly what we do. Shared calendars, time block. Our kids are homeschooled, exactly the same. And it's that thing, right? Success leaves clues. It doesn't matter. 2 separate people. It's not like we sat down and attended the same seminar that told us what to do. It's just that is what works best. So smart people deviate towards doing the thing that works best.
Well, yeah. You learn trial by fire too. You're oh, this is not working. And certain things go on and throughout the day. And you're just I can't do any work. I can't get anything done. I can't work on myself. I can't have these business calls with people screaming. And
have you ever heard the phrase, there's no such thing as Canadian geometry?
No.
It's one of my favorite phrases. It's basically, geometry is geometry. It's not based on any particular culture. And if somebody invented Canadian geometry, all the Canadian parts would just be fluff and not necessary. And it's the same thing. We're both successful people in, families where we truly care about our families and we want to make sure we put time for them and for our children. So based on that, there's no Canadian way to raise family. It's just, we're doing what is optimum to have a successful family. I study a lot of martial arts. I love martial arts. And they say that at the highest level, whether it's kickboxing, boxing, kung fu, karate, a punch looks exactly the same, because the functional element that makes a punch successful is the same. And that's why, many people don't realize that in MMA, people think it's just, Muay Thai, judo, and Brazilian jiu-jitsu. But actually, there's a lot of people that are doing karate, Wing Chun, Kung Fu. You just can't tell, because at the highest level, it just looks the same. And it's the same thing. We've just found things that work.
I think that's actually probably applicable to almost everything. The older I get, the smarter I get, the more successful I get, the more I realize it's fucking just the simpler you need to make things.
Yeah.
It's all just peeling away everything that's bright and shiny technology, plug on, all these bolt-ons that everyone tries to do. And it's really just about a couple things consistently and then just doing them over time. And then as far as success goes, you can pour gasoline on that and break your days up to where you're doing things multiple times in a day, or the frequency, so you can increase frequency as well, right? Work out twice a day or make sales calls twice a day at 2 different blocks or whatever, right? And so but it really is just the simplest shit that creates success.
Yeah, there's a really, so many people know Bruce Lee as a martial artist. Not as many people know that Bruce Lee was a really good philosopher. He was actually arguably as good at philosophy as he was at martial arts. And one of my favorite phrases that, some people know is, before you study the art, a punch is a punch and a kick is a kick. Once you begin to study and understand it, you realize a punch is no longer a punch and a kick is no longer a kick. But once you master the art, you realize a punch is punch and a kick is a kick. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. There's a point where for a while it's wondrous and unique and special. And at the highest level, you're like, oh no, just do the thing.
Yeah.
Just do the thing.
Yeah. I don't know. I think that didn't come and smack me in the face until I turned like 40.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, oh, this is all way simpler than I was making it for.
Yeah, it really, and I love what you said. It isn't about what you add, it's about what you peel back. That is so true. It's not add more, it's take away. I heard this really cool quote today. It was from a meme, but I'll quote it anyway. And I don't even remember who wrote it, but it said, remember that no's are more powerful than yeses, because yeses feel good. The other person's happy, you made them smile, but yeses come with costs, time, money, energy, effort, opportunity costs. No's are hard. No's hurt, no's upset people, and no's are uncomfortable. But no's save you time, energy, stress, money, and create opportunities. So embrace the no's.
I say that to my mastermind group that I run all the time, which is that, like, in your first few years of business, you get overwhelmed with saying yes to everything because you're chasing. You're chasing because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And you're like, I'll chase like sales, I'll chase leads, I'll say yes to anything. I'll discount my prices, I'll do X, Y, and Z. Like, just give me the money because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing and I need some sales. And once you get that, your business stabilized a bit and kind of reach that next level where you can take a breath and you've got some staff and you've got some scaling, like you have the ability to then I think they have the ability to kind of clear some space and start saying no to it. And you better say no to everything, because now you've got some money and now you've got some time. And like, that's it's a weird place to be where you can really like fuck up your whole life. Because you at that next stage, like you go from broke to having something, and then when you get some time, you get some space, you get some freedom, and if you don't start growing personally at that point and understanding and knowing who you are, because I think a lot of times I think that's why we say yes to a lot of things. Like, I'm very comfortable at this stage of life saying no to almost everything because I'm crystal clear on like my core values and like what I want out of life and what I want out of the next 10 years. And
I love it. My mentor always says, there's no such thing as no and yes. There's no and hell yes. Mm-hmm. If it's a yes, it's a no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way. That is an excellent way to look at it. And and we're privileged to be right there where we can say it's got to be a hell yes. 'Cause I'm not chasing those every single sale anymore. But like, I think if I could have got like that advice early on and been more disciplined about it, if you will, because it's hard to be disciplined when you're hungry, and you know what I mean? And so I think that you would grow slower having stuck to those values probably, but you would grow cleaner. And then you can scale faster, right? Because you don't build the ship on like all kinds of shaky ground.
Right. Yeah. I give the analogy of cooking. Like, you can absolutely cook your food on the highest heat right from the beginning, but no one's going to want to eat it.
Yeah.
Right. It's
that's great.
Yeah. You want to just get a nice heat going, make sure the pan's hot, let it really heat up, then add some ingredients, let the spices simmer, let it all get going, then start adding the ingredients, and then cook it over time. That slow cook is a better cook.
Yes.
And that's the same with business and everything. I mean,
everything.
Relationships, everything.
It's just hard to be patient. Hard to be patient, especially in the world we live in, when everybody wants everything. But that's another thing. When you get a little older and you get in the game for a while and your entrepreneurial career gets longer, you realize that like no matter what, you're going to be pretty okay 20 years into this thing, as long as you just stay in it.
Yeah. There's no failure. There's just quitting.
Yeah.
That's
And then, I mean, as long as you don't make catastrophic mistakes time and time again, like,
well, yeah. And I think that's the thing, right? Like in that case though, are you really doing it? You know, like if you're really doing it, you can't make those catastrophic mistakes, because the doing it is learning from the mistakes.
yes.
So you should never repeat a mistake. It's just, okay, I did this mistake, that didn't work. Now I'm going to do this. And it's staying with it, and don't overexpose yourself. Don't get greedy. Take it as slow as needed. Like, you know, I always tell people, like, you go through spurts where you push. Like I'm in a growth spurt right now. And so we are pushing, and, you know, we're close to the wire, and there are moments we look at it and we're like, oh, are we too close to the flame? But we're like, no, you know what? We've got the runway. Let's just go for it. We've got a bit more room. Let's push. And then if it gets too tough, we just tighten up the belt and pull back a bit, slow down, take it slow.
Yep. That was me last year, and I pushed too hard, and like, but every lesson I learned, like, it has prepared me for where I think I'm going now. Like we've recovered, we've stabilized, and now I'm like ready to grow again, but I'm going slower because I'm looking for opportunities. Like what is the direction we're going to move next? And I think that everything we went through in the last like 12, 18 months was to prepare me for 5-10xing what we're doing. And so like it's all perspective, and then also like don't waste those lessons like you're talking about.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's education. That's real education, and it's worth more than any paper education anywhere in the world.
For sure, man. Hey, where can people find you, man, if they're interested in your services? Like, this has been a real sexy conversation. I do say so myself.
Yeah, I
who wouldn't want to 10x their business?
Right. Yeah. So our website is thesmartblueprints.com. And something that I'm going to offer absolutely everybody listening here is we'll absolutely do a free site audit, where if you fill in the form, just tell us that, you know, you found out about us through Jeff Smith. We'll make a point of getting one of our team, and they will go through your website, and they'll just see if there are some really obvious opportunities where you're just leaving money on the table. And this isn't a technical website overhaul. This is a offering overhaul. Like, is what you're selling hitting right, just based on what we know about trends in the market and what's going on with regards to, you know, the media and politics. And we can often see that, okay, you're not talking about the stuff that people really care about right now. There's money to be had, and a revamp of the way you're messaging things could do really great. And like I said, it's not about overhauling the website. We actually don't touch the website. We're just going to help you communicate with the customers and make the sales without making any big technical changes.
Yeah. Thesmartblueprints.com.
Thesmartblueprint.com.
Blueprint, no S. There you go. Thesmartblueprint.com, guys. Use that. Get your website or your offer overhauled. You can find Adam Lyons. He's blue check everywhere. This guy's famous. Had five women at one time. Come on, like you heard it.
Once upon a time. Now it's 5 children, but you know, it's the same thing. They still want your attention.
But we're all about business here, building big lives. So get a hold of this guy, follow this guy. He's doing big things. Like, I mean, 1,900 mergers and acquisitions he participated in the last 3 years. So that alone should show you how impressive this man is. And thank you for your time, Adam. I really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, man. If you need anything, Jeff, just call me. Yeah, anytime.
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. I'll touch base soon. We're coming over to your house soon.
Yeah, can't wait. See you soon. Thanks, man.
Thanks.
Thank you for listening to the show. Make sure you subscribe, leave a review, and share with a friend. We'll see you on the next episode of the Tactical Empire.